Housing Authority meeting for November 3rd, 2009. May we have the roll call, please?
Authority members: Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chairman Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the November 3rd, 2009 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, October 29, 2009 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. I understand we do not have any minutes.
No minutes for approval at this meeting.
The next item, then.
Oral communications. Discussion is limited time. Is not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
Thank you. I have one card from Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon. Chairman Najarian, members of the Housing Authority, and city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. For a long time, ever since 2002, I have been interested in following up on the quality of life indicators, because unlike what I see in private industry and in other cities, there is a periodic, usually yearly, evaluation of how an organization is performing. If you take a look at the U.S. economy, for example, there are many organizations interested in finding out how the country is doing financially, the economic indicators we have. Universities generally interested in how the social indicators are doing as far as the national economy is concerned. And we generally find problems with it. It's like the very significant income gap that we have now between rich and poor in the United States. When you look at the state of California, also many agencies are looking at how it is performing. Universities are interested. All types of agencies and independent entities are interested in evaluating how the state is doing. For example, it is believed now that the state of California spends more money in incarceration than it does on education. So the question is, how do we get there? But when it comes to city issues and city evaluations, well, there is no independent agency really looking carefully at how the city is performing. Yet, many cities throughout the United States and throughout the world now do this type of evaluations and, on a yearly basis. They do it to establish policy. How are we doing? How are we evaluating the quality of life of the residents that you govern? How do you create policy? Who is evaluating if the policy works or not? And then how do you communicate that to the public and engage the public into this type of governance and participation? So if I look at the quality of life of the city of Glendale, especially since 2002, we know some things have changed. I know that since 2004, crime has pretty much stopped decreasing. It decreased for many years, but around 2004 it stopped decreasing, even though there's been additional increases in police and police funding. The educational system, when we look at a report coming from the Glendale Unified School District, it will tell us the dropout rate is 6% or 4% in a single year. But when you look at other data that's collected by the universities, we actually find that, about 25% of our kids fail to graduate from high school in 4 years. So when a government agency tells you one thing and independent parties and analysis tell you another, what kind of trust can we have in government that you're able to tell us the way things really are so you can take action? If to you there is no problem with regard to the issues of high school dropouts, then there is no incentive to create programs for after school, or create any other type of initiatives that will reduce the problem. If we take a look at water usage as it is a crisis now, you provide relevant data that the public needs. For example, my calculations looking at the data that the Glendale Water and Power has shows that on average, the typical home uses about 300 gallons of water per day. And when it comes to electricity, we use roughly 15 kilowatt hours per day. That's on average. Now that you have that data, you figure if our goal is to reduce electrical consumption, now we have a nice, easy document or data that we can say that we're going to establish policy to reduce that number. Or those individuals who look at the data can themselves take an initiative to say, wait a second, how much water am I using vis-a-vis the general public here? And if they're using 400, 500 gallons a day on average, then they can take the initiative themselves of doing something proactive to reduce that. Another quality of life measure is traffic congestion. Now, normally that's the purview, of the city agencies and the Traffic and Parking Commission to evaluate any new construction that takes place and to disseminate to the public how it will impact it. But the general public should know if traffic conditions are getting worse, because it's one of the major headaches every single day when we take up our commute and we find the freeways more clogged, or even our own roads within the city of Glendale being even more congested. And that's another quality of life issue. And I think that it needs proper, clear measures that the public can know year to year. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? And if it's getting worse, then what are the policies that you will initiate? And I think at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want a series of reports on a continual basis that tell you if things are getting worse, and if so, what could you do about it, what policies could you create or align with other agencies to resolve them. And that's it. That is really the objective of all this initiative that I've taken to sort of promote this. And it is my hope that you move with it and hopefully fund it properly in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no other cards. Oral communications is closed. The next item, please.
Any authority member or staff comments?
Comments? Mr.
Yes,
Mason?
I went to the bus stop today, and there was a man smoking at the bus stop, and I thought to myself, if only they had put up those signs that say no smoking. And I was pleased to see, I looked up, and there was a nice sign that had the city symbol and said no smoking, gave the no smoking symbol. So congratulations, we got that. I was real pleased.
So did you ask him to put it out, or?
No, he saw me looking at that, and he walked down the street a little bit.
Very good. Mr. Weaver?
Just a general comment. This city is well over 100 years old, and it's a very well-run city. It's a desired place for people to live in. And I also believe what I learned in school, that this is a city manager council form of government. The public elects us as representatives to make the laws of the city, take actions. I think all the councils I've served with over the last 13 years are pretty well informed, know the limitations of what we can or can't do. The public, as Mr. Milano describes it, is himself, Mr. Silverman, and Mr. Mohill. That's the public that we hear about, because I'm not getting calls and emails from the public demanding everything. Virtually nothing that we hear we don't know about. But the limitations on our abilities to act are constrained by law, by funding, etc. We know where the shortcomings are. Like, we know there's not enough huge parks in South Glendale. We know that. Nobody has to sit here and tell us. We know about crime statistics, whatever. It's nothing new for us, and the public isn't screaming at us because we're not doing something about it. Yeah, they say, oh, we'd like you to stop the speeders. Well, easier said than done. We'd like you to stop the smokers. Easier said than done. There's a lot of things the public would like, but there's only so much we can do as a city, and we're doing our best. And before we leave, I would like staff somebody to indicate about the indicators report that's on the agenda today. Maybe Mr. Howard could explain what's happening.
Well, I was going to wait and do it when...
Well, if anybody's here, they don't need to stay at the end to find out we're not going to do it.
Mr. Howard, with the mayor's permission,
Sure. Mr. Mayor,
we had a joint meeting
Mr.
scheduled.
Mayor, Mr. Chairman of the agency, members of the council, members of the agency, you actually have a joint meeting. The only item on that joint meeting between the City Council and the Housing Authority is the quality of life indicators. That item has been requested to be pulled from the agenda so that the staff report can be further clarified and further information provided, and the intention is to bring it back in a few more weeks. And with that said, if there would be no objection, that meeting essentially would be canceled. It would not be held because there's only one item on the agenda.
I would request that when that's rescheduled, it's for a date that I'm here, missing 2 weeks in November.
I imagine staff would concur that all of you should be here for that report. But the last I heard this morning is we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks.
But we'll give adequate notice and make sure it's okay with our schedule.
Absolutely. I'll certainly pass that on.
Any other comments?
Make a motion.
I just want to, a few weeks back, I raised the issue of the utility allowance, Peter or Jess, and asked that you come back at some point. Is that coming back to us at some point? Week, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that's on the long-term agenda. Now, Mr. Mincy,
May I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
the agency is adjourned.
Have a good weekend.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, November 3rd, 2009 meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency.